All right, everyone, welcome back to the Be Healthy and Thrive podcast. My name is Brianna Wilkerson, your host, and I'm here today with Emily, and she is a purpose coach, and we're just going to here today to talk about being made for more. So I'm so excited to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us.
It's so good to be here, Brianna. Thanks for the invitation.
You're welcome. I just knew that when I was thinking about purpose and vocational health, just you immediately came to mind. So I'm so excited for us to just have a conversation and really share with people too, your journey in being made for more and finding your purpose and so forth. So can you just tell us a little bit more about you, what you do, where you live, whatever you feel like led to tell us?
Sure. So as you said, I'm a purpose and calling coach, and that started, before, so I like to say, who I am is not just what I do, because what your purpose is who you are. It starts with who you are, not what you do. So I am a mom and a wife and, a friend, and I'm an employee in my day job, a leader, all of those things. And I'm a coach, and that's where my heart and my passion is. And that is just seeing the potential in others and helping bring them out, giving them the space to bring it out. That's what I thrive in. And that's been my heartbeat since I was a teenager. And I always loved this idea of purpose and helping other people find it. And I would do these little worksheets and little courses on finding your purpose, and I just thought everybody liked it. And I remember one time, so I moved to Ontario, Canada, so I'm about 20 minutes from Niagara Falls, and I moved there on my own and kind of developed my own community and my church and my own my network, and started dabbling into leadership things, and I started leading a group. And after a couple of years of leading this group of 20 to 30 somethings, I decided, okay, we've done lots of topics. Let's do one on discovering your purpose. And I decided I had enough relationship with them. I was going to push them a little bit, because I was just like, oh, we're doing the same old thing. So we did it on being an on-purpose person. And I realized half of the group loved it, and they dug into it, and just been able to articulate just little steps of unlocking their dreams and who they really were, and how do you articulate that? What is my direction in my life? Some of them loved it, and some of them totally disengaged. And I was like, what? And I realized not everybody thrives around this. Some just want a life that they can expect. They just want the stability from going. They just want this thing to work out, and then everything's fine. And I was like, wow, I don't relate to that at all. So it kind of sparked something in me that showed me, okay, this is where I stand apart from somebody else. And that was important to me, because I was, just kind of in the background. I was just okay. As my day job is has been working in my church for been about 14 years. And so I had a lot of leadership development experience in offering it to others, and developing groups and administration and all of that, helping people find a sense of belonging. But I still stayed in the background. And so, back into my day job, there was this time where and I think it was about the same, it was around the same year that I did that group. I remember kind of sitting in the background. I'm surrounded by these high energy visionary leaders. They dream big, and I loved being able to help their dreams and the dream of our organization to move forward and seeing transformation in lives. But after a while, I kind of felt like I was just hiding a bit, that I wanted my own potential, but I didn't think that, I could be great. I was just ordinary, and I wasn't as educated as them. I didn't have the charisma as they did. I had all these excuses, and I was sitting there that morning, and just kind of looking at everybody saying, oh, I could never do what they were doing. And suddenly I kind of felt that. It's kind of like when everything stands still and everything fades around you and is just like, it's so quiet, but so loud, this sense, this voice. For me, it was God speaking to me and just saying, but I believe in you and these people believe in you. You're the only person that doesn't believe in that you have that potential. And that floored me. Everything stopped for a second and I could feel my face warm and, getting warm. I was sweating a little bit saying, oh my gosh, well, that's not okay. I don't want to be the one holding myself back. It's okay. It's okay for me to have all the other excuses that I don't have, the skills or I don't have the connections. It's okay, because those seems like really good reasons. And it's okay if, if I'm not good enough, and it is for someone else because it feels safe that way. And of course, in one sense, it was kind of I felt like God believed in me, but it was a little bit on one side, it was a little bit feeling like, your mom says that she believes in you and well, she's supposed to, your dad's supposed to. It doesn't always turn out that way. They're supposed to say they love you, right? But so it doesn't really count when you want it to, right? And it's an excuse. Mm-hmm. And I realized so there's that side of the thought. And then there's this other thought that said, oh, well, if the person I believe created, if my higher power, if God believed that he created me and he believes in me, and I'm saying that I have faith and I trust him, then I'm kind of, in a sense, slapping him in the face by not actually stepping out in it. It was this moment of, and I wouldn't ever say that to someone else, but it was this moment, it was this check moment. It was this moment of this firm face my reality. Do I really want to keep all those excuses or am I going to step out and make a change? And that was a defining moment. There needed to be a lot more after that, but that was the moment that started to say, okay, I'm not okay with holding myself back. So how do I need to work out? How do I go from insecure to confident? How do I become more assertive? How do I figure out what is my way of helping? What does it even look like? So that was kind of the moment that started it for me, realizing that I loved working and helping people find their potential and their purpose, which is very ironic because that was the moment that I was in, right? And then realizing that some people are ready for it and hungry for it, and some people aren't. And those are the people who are the ones that I wanted to connect with. That was the start of my journey.
There's so many good things that you just said. I had to write them down.
I probably stop.
No, it was good. I just think the biggest thing I took from that too was just the idea that you were the only one that didn't believe you had potential. Because I think often we're actually looking for validation from other people. And we might actually have it, but really what we're looking for is that validation from within ourselves. What we can do it, that we're important. And I actually just got finished. I'm listening to this audiobook called The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. And he just mentioned something on my way home. I had to pause it. He said that unimportant people feel if they feel unimportant, they're headed towards mediocrity, just a normal life. But if you feel important, you'll be successful. Mm-hmm. And it just really made me think of, it is so true and it's not that the successful people or the people who we see maximizing their potential are arrogant. They just understand that they have something to offer and they're going to go after it. Right. Yeah. And so I just think that I love that you said that. And I think that is actually the best place to start, is to recognize that you were made for more. And then from there, lead out of that.
Totally it. Mm-hmm. And I see that as the starting place, right? Mm-hmm. I can bring you through my, from stress to purpose, pathway. But I realized I can get so excited for you. I can get so excited and believe for a client. But I realized that you have to be ready and you have to be hungry, and not just say you're hungry and you think you want it, But there has to be something that clicks inside of you that says, I'm ready to let go of this identity of insecurity, this identity of, I'm a nobody or I'm not worth listening to. Even if you don't believe in it yet, you have to be ready to believe something else in order to get ready for your purpose, because it could be smack in front of you and you wouldn't recognize it because you don't want it, because you're not ready to step out in it. And if you're not ready to step out in it, then in a sense, it's going to be wasted. And so it's such when you understand your purpose and you know what you're called to, there's so much weight, there's so much responsibility with it, that if you're not ready for it all, if you're not ready to go through the ringer, to go through the different steps that it is going to take to even increase your capacity as a person to handle your calling, in a sense, to handle what you're created for, then you won't be ready. Like, you won't step into it. And I'm not making sense now, but
No, you
like
are.
there's this I'm going around in circles, but there's this readiness that you have to be inside for the adventure of even the discovery of it. And at that moment, as a coach, I can't fix that for you. I can't fix that for anybody else. And that's a hard feeling. It's like, yeah, I love that moment when you wake up, when I see somebody wake up inside and they realize, hey, you mean that could be for me? Love that.
Well, what would you recommend to people though who aren't ready? Like, how do people get ready? How do they get ready to the point where they recognize they're made for more than they can seek help, right? But it is that being ready, willing to change. What
it's
would
funny
you
because
recommend?
I've been thinking about that question, because I had that question today.
Yeah.
From once or this week, once or twice. And so I've been thinking about it. And there's an element of surrender, because in a sense, we have this definition of who we are. So as I stepped into the different parts of my in my coaching practice and what I offered, I started to go back to the different points in my journey, and what I realized, I had a 7-point framework that I walk people through from start to finish in my coaching sessions, but it gave me a place to understand what point that they were stuck. And the first part I realized was in those couple stories, it is embracing of who you are. There's a sense of identity that you have to have. And like I said at the beginning, purpose comes from who you are first. It's not just to be defined by what you do. And what I mean by that is, you can feel like your identity is a mom. And so you get out of school, you get married, you have kids right away, and your whole identity is a mom. And it's normal. But I remember, so my mom had 8 kids, and she did the whole mom thing for a lot of years at home, and that was her whole life. And I remember one time she said that she had to recognize her identity was outside. It wasn't just being a mom, because if something happened for her kids, to her kids, and she wasn't that mom role anymore, that would be devastating. So when what you do can be lost, and that can be your job, it can be your role as a mom, it can be your, if you're an athlete, or if you lose, or I've known some singers who lose their voice for a year, and all of a sudden it shakes your identity to the core. So if your identity is outside, it's based on what you do or what you can't do, then you're not going to move forward in your purpose, or you're not going to feel the worth of it, and you're going to feel judged, and your sense of success is going to be wobbly. It's going to be fragile, because anybody's opinion matters. Anybody's critique of something, you want to alter it, right? It's like oversteering when you're driving a car. But when you start with who you are And there's this subtle piece that you lean into, this surrender that says, and for me, that is my relationship with God and who he says I am. But I was reading in Rising Strong by Brene Brown just this week, and her studies and her data saying that that ability when you fall, when you crash, and that strength to get back up again, to go after, you're made for more. She defined it, she said, from all of her data, the people that were strongest at that were the people that were connected. It was a spiritual practice. They had a connection to a higher power, a bigger being than themselves that they connected to. And so for me, that's God. And for me, it was everything in that story, in my own story, to trust that God said, well, I believe in you. I know that I'm loved by him. I know that I had to have another defining moment to realize I didn't have to earn his favor and his love, that I was accepted. I had to feel a sense of belonging in something, in somewhere. There's these pieces that I had to accept who I am, and then trust. So the part of that story that I had to lean on was that I didn't feel any different afterwards. I actually felt like scared, totally scared, because I'm like, what does this mean? But so my trick, I guess, and I forgot about this totally till this conversation. My trick was that I acted on the belief that I had potential because God said that I did. I didn't feel it and I didn't believe it right away. It was a total, okay, I have to see this differently, and I don't feel significant. I don't know what I have to offer. I don't know that I could do anything major to change the world. But if God says so, or if that person thinks so, I'm going to borrow their belief for a while until I start seeing it for myself. And that's what I had to do for months, probably at least a year before I started feeling it myself. And it wasn't just a lean. I made an absolute, it was like I accepted a dare that day. And therefore the choice, I had pre-made the choice. When I felt insecure, then I flagged that and I said, I already decided that that's not going to define me. So I'm going to go with this. So that I'd never done something like that before. That was transformational. Just deciding, nope, I'm not going to believe that. I'm going to believe that. Mm-hmm. Sounds weird. And people, and I hear it all the time now, but that was my discovery back then, right?
Yeah.
It was an inner wake-up call.
I think what's amazing is, even as you talk about borrowing someone else's belief, the Bible talks about that countless times, where there are people who just kind of lost faith. Someone else had faith for them, mm-hmm. that they would be healed, or all these different things. And I don't think anything's wrong with that. I think we should sometimes do that, because how we feel in reality often is not always in line with each other. And sometimes we need our feelings to catch up to reality, and vice versa. So I love that you just decided, I'm just going to decide that this is true, even when I don't feel like it. And if you act on that decision and that truth, that will guide you, right? Yeah. So good. And that's just so funny that your freebie is on, well, it's probably not funny, it's probably very intentional, that your freebie is on 7 Steps to Dare to Decide. And so that's awesome.
But my journey was so long that until I started working as a coach and decided to get, it was another moment to decide, no, I'm going to do this. I'm actually going to intentionally not just coach people for fun because it lights me up. I'm actually going to do this and start getting serious of, okay, well, how do I explain what I have to offer someone, and how do I explain what is different, right? I had to go through that whole process, and I had to go through that whole, believe that I had something. And so it was almost in a moment of desperation to say, okay, if I were to write a book, what in the world would it be about? And so I just went through all the different points in my journey. I mean, that was in 2009 that
Wow.
first little that happened. It was a while ago. And so I'd forgotten those pieces and the significance of that moment, because all the moments all blend into each other and life happens and you kind of hit some different curves. But that really was a different moment, because I had to understand other elements of what purpose is for me. It isn't just doing the fun, exciting things, or what, our news feed, what our news feed on Facebook tells us, you can do all this and be all this, right? There's all these different steps I had to learn along the way of what purpose was until I get to this point now. But that was those steps. That was the first one, who I am. And that is when I get stuck again, that's the step I always go back to.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm stuck in strategy, when I'm stuck in, okay, what do I need to know? Where am I aligned? Like all of these choices, when I'm at a crossroads, I've got tools for that. Yep, there's different ways. But when I go through my 7-step framework, I start at who I am, and I usually get a lot more unstuck just by delving into that step and journaling and just kind of surrendering to, okay, who I am. Okay, it's not defined by all of this stuff I'm trying to figure out. Okay, I'm going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. So good. Yeah, I kind of similar put as I was thinking about this, so actually over a year ago, and just my own journey and like what did I do as well, right? Or what are the fundamental things I see popping up? And mine is kind of like catalyze your purpose, discover, pursue, and thrive in your purpose. And the first one is discover who you are as a person. And I think it's kind of very similar, like, who are you really? Because that's going to indicate a lot. And because a lot of times we're like, oh, I want to do this, but I'm like, is that even aligned with who you are? Maybe it's not. So maybe that isn't the thing, or maybe it is and you have to work towards it. I don't know. And I think I just love that you always come back to that identity, always come back to that truth that does not change. So even if you were to choose a new, God was like, go do something completely different, who you are doesn't change. You're just carrying that into that thing, right?
And yet, I mean, it can be complex too, in the sense that every experience you have. So when life throws you curveballs, so when my husband, this was beforehand, but my first marriage fell apart and my husband left me. It rocked my world. It hit me on an identity thing, right? I don't believe in divorce. This isn't what I signed up for. How does this mean I am a subhuman being because all of a sudden I was here and my values were here? What did that mean for who I was? I had to wrestle with that. And so you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if a hurricane's going to devastate everything you've built around you. You don't know if there's so many things that happen in life where, sickness and you weren't counting on it. You have to take care of a family member and all of a sudden all your plans are on hold. All of those things can sideswipe you if your identity is centered on what you do or your status or how people perceive you, what you've earned. So it's so much more stable and peace giving, I feel, when it's based on who are you. Yeah.
So what do you find are some of the things that you work with the clients you work with? Is it that foundational identity piece, or do people tend to come to you kind of already knowing that, or is it a mixture of both?
A lot of that is I weave. That's not the question they're asking often. So they come to me with a problem that they want to solve. And so usually they're at a crossroads. Either I need to decide what the heck, I'm 30, I need to figure out what to do with my life, or I've gone in this direction and this, I started my business and all of a sudden I ended up here. I don't like it anymore. And this is what I thought, or this is what my dream is. I don't feel like I'm enough for my dream, but this is what I feel called to. I feel so passionate. Like, what do I do about this? Or I don't have time for all of these things. So what I come back to with them is who you are. It's not usually like if they're coming to me saying, I want to have a purpose and I don't know where to start, we'll go through strengths and personality and figure that out. And that's the beginning. But a lot of people don't come to me with, what is my purpose? They aren't coming with that question. They're coming with, I want more from my life. I feel like there's got to be something more. I'm bored, I'm restless, I'm stressed. I feel all these pressures. And so in those steps, that's when I usually take to say, okay, who are you with? What would happen? It's usually they're feeling who they are not. And so the question, so we center it on that, bring them up as opposed to bring them in.
I think that's super important, is knowing who you're not too, knowing what you're not about, because it's very easy. Yeah. There's so many things you could do. There's so many things you can get involved in, take in. And it's just, if that's not what you're about, don't even entertain it. So I think that is important. I love that you work with that, like knowing what you're not into.
Yeah. So it's usually threaded in. If they're ready for the long road, then we'll spend modules on that. If they are just diving in for just a quick intensive, then my step 2 is a dare to dream and desire. And it's unpacking what is your dream, but then what is the desire? What is your core desire behind your dream? What are you looking to fill? Are you doing this dream to be filled up? Because that's a different matter. Or is there something, that this gives you? Is this something that, so there's these core desires that drive us, that, kind of make us whole as a being: peace, stability, recognition, belonging, all of those things. And so a lot of my work will dive into step 2. And then sometimes that brings us up back to step 1, is who you are. And they're ready to answer the question, okay, who am I? Because sometimes we're too scared to ask the question. We feel naked, in a sense. We feel vulnerable, exposed by talking about who you are. So it's not always the question we get to first, but it's the foundation that I usually want to make sure. I want to see them get that aha moment first, when they're ready for it.
And what have you found, maybe one particular client or person you've helped, that after going through all this, like one story that you're like, whoa, they went through these, they asked themselves the tougher questions, all that sort of thing, and this was the result? Do you have one particular in mind that you would like to share?
In the who I am kind of thing?
Yeah, or just working with you, just going through those different modules with you, kind of the ending result.
Yeah. I remember one girl had this huge dream. I tend to have clients who come with huge dreams that they're like 20-year building dreams. They see the vision and they come and they're like, I don't even know if I'm allowed to have a dream this big, right? And so she came, she's like, I didn't finish my degree. I don't have this credential and this degree. Like, I don't think I can't do, she was blocked by, I want to do this dream, and these are the steps. I need to finish this degree, and I need to, work with this and this connection, and I need to get this certification. And I was just sensing something in the conversation. And so we stopped there and said, okay, so what do you believe about that? So this is step, I worked, this is a few steps down the road, but what do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about this? You have, and it came down to when she did the work and she stopped, and she was floored, because she realized, and she knew better. She walks people through this, but all of a sudden she had this aha moment to realize that she was trying to self-sabotage her dream. With realizing she didn't have the credentials. So she's trying to go through all the world's steps, all of our society's steps of, you need to have all this and this and this and this, these letters by your name in order to do this. And she was starting to attribute her sense of success and her sense of value with those letters that she needed. And when she realized this, then of course it's attached to things from her past and things that were said and things that didn't happen in her life. And when she realized it, she was floored and in tears. And she's like, wow, I didn't realize that I was believing that I wasn't worth having those credentials, or that I was even worth having the dream that this big. And that, I loved that moment because she was brilliant and skilled and young and full of potential. And she could do all of those things. And she, in a sense, she knew better, but it was underneath these layers, as to why she was stuck and why she kept kind of repeating some same cycles back over and over and over. So it was a huge weight when she came back the next, in the session, and then she goes home, journals about it, and she comes back. She's like, Emily, you don't know what that did to me. She's like, that so much weight and unlocked so many ideas and creativity just by switching that belief. So that was a really cool moment to see.
That's amazing. And I feel like that is the deeper work too, right? Like you could even have all the credentials, you could even all that. And then there comes something that there will be a crossroads of actually, this is what we call that upper limit. This is the thing that is like, I keep hitting it and I'm not getting past it. Right. It reminds me again of Magic of Thinking Big. And just like he talks about this, it's such a funny word, excusitis. And he's just like, we all have all these excusitis, like the way to cure it or vaccinate it is to do X, Y, and Z, right? So one is fear, but one is intelligence too. Just like, oh, but I'm not as smart as that. I don't have this. And so it's fine. Like, no, that's just an excuse. And so the way to do that is just try, or, the way to get around it. And I just think it's so interesting how we can self-sabotage because it feels easier to be safe. You won't get let down. You won't disappoint anybody. You won't fail. But it's actually not easier to be safe in that regard as well. So
yeah. And our brains are wired. I mean, the more that I learn and hear about neurology, your brains are wired. Like it's, in a sense, it believes it's working for you and keeping you safe. So your brain is telling you all kinds of signals to say, whoa, what are you dreaming that big for? That's not safe. I'm here to, there's these guardians of our heart that try and protect us too. And it's not just us in a sense, like we've trained our brains to wire that, but our brains are wired to keep us safe and protect us. And sometimes we misinterpret what those signals are. You listen to the signals instead of realizing, okay, this is your intention, but it's okay. Like if I fall, if I crash, if something goes wrong, I'm going to be okay too. Right. It's changing what our definition of safe is. I think at least that's what I had to do.
So good. So what would you say your definition of safe is now?
I think it's what I just said, that it's so it used to be, perfection and goodness were my like cozy blanket. As long as everything's perfect and I'm good and I don't do anything wrong, then nobody's going to have to, have a talk with me or get in trouble, and I won't have to deal with those emotions. And that's okay. That's safe. And then I realized, but that's also, very limiting. Like the life I want is outside of those walls. So I had to break down those walls. And the more I realized, okay, then I'm just going to, not fail on purpose in the sense of sabotage, but I'm going to try this knowing it's not going to be good enough. I'm going to put this out there knowing that it's not good. I could keep polishing it up, but then it's not out there. And then it won't actually improve because I won't get the feedback, or I won't understand how it interacts with people, how it works. And so safe became safe became changing my definition of success. My success was, I didn't want to end my life not trying. So when to simplify it totally, the first half of my life was, well, don't try a whole lot because then you'll be safe. And and then you won't fail. So then you're successful in a sense. And then when I switched it, I realized I'm not okay with that anymore. So, and I'm still a cautious, reserved person. So my personality is still threaded in there. So what looks like it might be safe to somebody else, in my mind, it feels big. But I just realized it's okay not to be perfect. It's okay to be misunderstood. It's okay if somebody confronts me. I'm going to learn and grow along the way, because I want to increase my capacity for what I'm called to do. And at the end of my life, I want to say that I tried and I did my best, not that I just stayed safe. So I think I switched it with what my sense of success is.
So good. You have so many little nuggets from here. Can't wait to listen again and share this with anyone. Well, as we wrap up, is there anything, like, last piece of advice or encouragement you want to share to those listening based on what we've talked about? Anything?
I think it's just recapping some of those nuggets that we talked about there. We could keep looking for more information. We can look for someone to hand us our purpose, look for someone to validate our significance. And it's not necessarily going to be what's going to do it. You have to be ready or not, to put yourself out there and go through the journey of figuring it out. I think it was the phrase that was my motto for a few years. You can't steer a parked car. Sometimes you really do just have to get moving in order to figure out the direction. To lose those is, same with exercise. Sometimes in order to get motivated to exercise, you just have to start.
Yep.
Just start moving. Just move your body. Just do something. Commit to something. And then you can learn the lessons along the way. But just throw yourself in the ringer and go for it.
Basically.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, can you maybe end with us just sharing about your freebie that people can sign up for?
Yeah. So you can get just a summary. If you want a summary of, my 7-step framework, you can get that at emilygrabatin.ca/dare. And that's just the key questions that I go back to in my life, and unpack that. Just for grounding, just to orientate yourself to say, where am I stuck in this process? Just knowing where I'm stuck helps me know what questions to ask. And then even knowing, okay, what kind of person could help me with this, So yeah, my 7-step guide to dare to decide is what it's called.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, then as we wrap up, then I keep saying this, but I keep forgetting things. Where can people find you on Facebook? I think that's your main social media here.
Yeah. So you can find my page if you want to stalk me. My page is Emily Grabatin, or, it's my page, facebook.com/Emily Grabatin. I also have a group that's where I'm more interactive, and it's called Made for More, or the group name is Purposely Made for More. And you can join the group if you want to join the adventure as well.
Excellent. I love how you called it an adventure. Yes, it is an adventure.
I do. It's an adventure.
Awesome.
Yep. Twists and turns, ups and downs.
Hikes, lows.
Yep.
Fall on your booty and skid down the place. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I enjoyed this so much, and I know so many people listening are going to get a lot out of it.
Well, I loved hearing your heart. I love that you light up about this as well, and that you are helping people live in their purpose. I really think that our world is just a better place when people understand their purpose and they can do their part, because we can't do it all. So I love that you are doing that and inspiring that as well. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Be sure to check the corresponding blog post to get all the links for everything Emily mentioned and some things I have around catalyzing your purpose as well. So thanks so much and have a good one, guys.